All right, folks. As the title says, I've made a rather drastic move in my dividend income. I don't know how I feel about it, to be honest. Yeah, so if we look back on this video here, you might remember I've been unhappy with Henderson Far East Income for quite a while, and it's on an astronomical yield of 12.15. And that video there I just referred to it. I was talking about how they were achieving that yield and how they were doing all sorts of amateurish things that meant that it eroded the capital to get that yield of 12%, over 12%. Yeah, so I've been pondering it and umming and ahhing for a long time, and today I just had a rush of blood to the head, I guess, and I just slashed it. I've completely sold out of Henderson Far East Income. I mean, another one of the reasons is that inexplicably it trades at a 4% premium to its NAV. Even though it's a really bad performer overall, it trades at 4%. Yeah, so what I've decided to do is, I'm a bit unsure what's going to come later, but we should be familiar with this 12.47% number here that I've talked about as being my projected dividend increase for this year compared to the previous year. Year being 6th of October to 6th of October. That's very high, isn't it? So what I was thinking was, why not just completely slash Henderson Far East Income to a really low yielder? Because even if we take the HFEL to zero for the last two dividends this year, which will be those two, I've still got myself an 8.58% increase on last year, which is quite healthy. And then that gives the year after an easier time, an easier year-on-year comp to compete with. What I've done is I've gone for quite a low yielder. I haven't even gone in the ballpark. I've put all of the money into F&C Investment Trust, which, as you can see there, yields about 1.57%. Yeah, so now you can see my holding in that is about 26 grand. Usually it was about 18 this morning, so how much was it? I think it was about just under 8 grand's worth of HFEL I ended up getting. So it's taken all of that out and replaced it with a really low yielder. Now, if we look at the up-to-date version of that spreadsheet I was just showing, this is the one from last night. 13,778 is estimated to be got this year, and now estimating 13,330 and an 8.81% increase in my dividends. We can see there that I'm not going to get the first FSIT one for those extra shares. That's what that note means there, and then from then on I'll get a little bit more for FSIT. And as we can see here, with this pessimistic overlay on all of these ones, I'm now only going to be projected to earn £12,471. So that's like, it's going to be a major cut to my dividend. And if we look at it, so yeah, it requires even to keep up with this projected number there, it needs massive rises in the dividend. Although, to be fair, this is, as I say, this is the pessimistic number. If we take out the pessimistic overlay, I tell you what, let's still keep it a little bit pessimistic. Let's go for a 10% cut to that one, 10% cut to that one. So all the property ones, 10% cut instead of a 30% cut. And then let's go to a 20% cut for all of the renewable ones instead of like a almost 50% cut. So maybe that's more realistic. Just under 13 grand. So that requires 330 quid to kind of happen naturally with the increases, just, the increases in the dividends that just regularly happen. So yeah, so I'm going from having an amazing dividend growth year this year to having a very good dividend growth year at just under 9%. But it gives the year after a chance. One of the things that really annoyed me was in the most recent, I can't remember if it was half year report or full year report, but they mentioned that the kind of like the ordinary dividends from their underlying portfolio was down like 10%, and most of the reason they got that 12% yield covered was because of options writing, and options writing just means that they're limiting their upside, and given where the markets are at the moment, if they're still doing lots of options writing, if there is a recovery in the market, all of that upside, or well, not all of it obviously, but some of the upside from any recovery in the market, as you can see we're down here, like everything else is down, that's where you lose out, because you gain the downside, but you have a higher yield, but you miss out on the upside because the calls get oh, what's the phrase? I can't remember the terminology. Basically, all of the upside gets called away from them or something. I'm butchering that language there. I don't fully understand it myself, to be honest. So I figured, if there is going to be a recovery, Henderson Far East Income probably isn't going to take part in it as much as something like F&C. So I've just gone for that. I mean, if you compare to the two over a couple of time frames here, we can see that obviously the longer back you go, the better F&C's done. But obviously this excludes the massive dividend, so you have to add on 12. Well, I don't know. You have to add on like 11% to make this a realistic thing. So actually, yeah, they've performed about the same in the past year. And then if you go to year to date, pretty similar. But again, add on the HFEL dividend as well. So actually, it hasn't done that bad in total returns recently. But I feel like now that there's been a drop in the market, any recovery in the market, this is where all of that options writing stuff stops you from taking part in the upside. Some of it, or most of it, has been put into my Trading 212 account. And then the rest of it was in the IWEB ISA, so I've just sold it and bought it in there. It also allowed me to use the 700 odd quid that was in the IWEB ISA, so that's no longer just sat there not getting any interest. And it emptied the cash here, because I had too much cash in there anyway. I made a mistake when I put £2,000 in the other day, £2,000 more than I actually needed in the account. So now that means I can put the money into my LISA and my SIP all at the same time now, because I've got some leeway. So I've got about £4,500 coming in here, which allows me to put it all straight into the tax shelters and get the bonuses all as quickly as possible. I mean, I could have done it by selling some of my ultra short bond fund ETF, but I'd rather not do that because there's a spread on that. So I've just used up all of my ISA cash, allowing me to have more freedom outside of the ISAs with the cash. So if we add up the new full year's dividend here, this is kind of the optimistic version of the dividend. I've now got a projected one of 13,224. So if everything goes really well, I'm about flat. Next year I'll be about flat on this year that I'm halfway through. But obviously things will progress as the time goes by. These numbers should all rise as each trust gets its dividend increases, hopefully. So one other note on why I decided I was happy to do this is basically just because of my spending. I'm 5 months in here. This was my target spending for this time frame, and I'm now 5 months into it, and I'm already about 600 quid lower than my budget. So that's my budget, and then if we add 6% to that budget for the year after, so from the 6th of October 25 to 6th of October 26. Oh, sorry, not 6th of October. I do this in November. Yeah, this is in November. So yeah, I'll be spending about that much. So I mean, based on my projections, I should still have my spending covered by the dividends, and then on top of that, I've got the buffer of the LISA bonus, the SIP bonus, and the interest on my cash that I get as well. So I've got a good few grand there, in excess of what I'm spending still. So basically, I'm in a position where my spending is low enough that I don't actually need that income, and I can choose to lower my income for next year, and hopefully what I'm expecting to get is about flat. I'd be happy if I'm just like maybe 1% higher than this year in the following year. And at some point I may well, now that I've taken some of the very dividend focused, well, income focused, because it's not all dividends, is it? So I've now taken a big chunk of dividend stuff and I've put it into more growthy stuff. So now I feel justified now, if in a few months' time or 6 months or something, if I wanted to go the other way and move some out of FSIT or maybe some out of other growthy stuff and into dividendy stuff, I feel justified in doing that because I've done it the other way. I'm just reversing what I've done today if I do that in the future. So there is potential there for me to manufacture some higher income in a few months' time if I decide I want to, or if a particular opportunity arises. Oh yes, and of course there is that other thing I could do to manufacture a bit of income. Me playing games with myself here. Remember, I could also just stop doing that. So this is where I reinvest for. So for 4880 of my shares in Gore Street Energy, I reinvest it straight away and don't count it as income. So obviously that can be reversed. I can boost my income that way. So this is all just me playing games with myself. None of it really matters. What really counts is your total performance and the volatility of your performance when you're withdrawing from a portfolio like I am. But I just like to play games. Anyway, yeah, there's another way I can boost my income in the future. And if I haven't said it already, I was going from a 4% premium to NAV with HFEL, and I've gone into a 7% discount to NAV with F&C. So that always makes me feel good. Alright, just editing the video, I realised I hadn't sort of looked at how bad the investment actually was now that I've sold it. We can see here that I had it in two accounts, the ISA and the non-ISA. So yeah, on a cost of about 12 grand, 12.5 grand, I made a loss of 4,730. But obviously with a 12% yielder, that's only half the story, isn't it? So how awful was this investment? I've got the numbers here. Where's HFEL? Row 33, and I've had income of 8,048p. So if I type that in, plus £8,048. So actually I've made overall, this isn't how you work it out, because to work it out properly in total performance, you have to simulate reinvesting the dividend each time you get paid it. So obviously, I don't know. I'm guessing that would make what I've got here a higher one, considering the share price is going down. So actually, this is probably flattering in terms of total return. But I've made overall 26% over my 10 years of ownership. But yeah, 2015 is the first year I had a dividend paid. Yeah, so obviously that's bad. Let's just do obviously this isn't how CAGR works. This is just a very ballpark figure. So it's less than 2.6% a year return that I've made there, and it's probably quite a bit less than it, because that is an overestimate because I'm not reinvesting the dividends, and that's an overestimate because it's a simple average rather than a compounded average. So yeah, I'd probably 2% a year, which is terrible. Would that beat cash though over that 10 years? I reckon probably it'll be a close call between cash and this investment over 10 years. Because we've had a few years of fairly decent interest rates, but we've had at least 5 of those years at like rock bottom interest rates as well, so who knows. Yeah, either way it's not good, because we should be comparing it to an all-world tracker, shouldn't we? Not cash. But yeah, terrible investment, but it's behind me now. And well, I should now be hoping for it to do even worse, shouldn't I? To justify my sale. But I'm not sure that would make me feel good either, to be honest. Yeah, alright, that's it then. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.